The Thor Love and Thunder trailer has been released after months of waiting by avid fans, and it did not disappoint. While there is a considerable amount within the trailer to unpack, there are still several surprising lurking in the shadows, waiting to be seen for the first time in either a second trailer or the final release of Thor Love and Thunder this July. While we get to see the mighty Thor, a repaired iteration of Mjolnir, and even a cameo by the Guardians of the Galaxy, we also get a glimpse at a franchise newcomer by the name of Zeus, set to be played by veteran screen actor Russell Crowe. So who is Zeus in the Marvel comic pantheon? How does he compare to his namesake in the Greek mythology, and what can we expect from the character come Thor Love and Thunder? Well, of course, stick with us today, watchers of the Marvel multiverse, and let's explore the Marvel Comics iterations of Zeus, as well as the actual Greek myth, and break down what may be waiting for us when Thor Love and Thunder releases this summer. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Zeus and his Greek counterpart are not too different from one another, and their backstories are largely the same, with only a few liberties taken by Marvel Comics. In the original source material, much like in the original myth, Zeus was born as the sixth child of Kronos and Rhea, both of whom were Titans, though in the comics he hails from the pocket dimension known as Olympus rather than the physical mountaintop from the ancient Greek legend. His father, however, had had a prophecy revealed to him that claimed to know the cause of his eventual downfall. According to this prophecy, Kronos was set to be overthrown by one of his own children, and this caused Kronos to take certain measures in order to protect himself. In the Greek myth, however, this was a bit different, and a bit more gruesome than the Marvel interpretation of the story. In the comic depiction of the Marvel universe, he banishes his children to the realm known as Tartarus, or the deepest pits of the underworld, which is again based on real-life Greek mythology, and curses them to be trapped in Tartarus for eternity. In the ancient Greek myth, however, he consumed his own children as they were born. The outcome of this story, though, remains the same in comics as well as the real Greek legend, in that Rhea hid the birth of their sixth child and sent Zeus away to live with the shepherds of Crete. In the original myth, she even wrapped a rock in baby's clothing and fed it to Kronos, tricking him into believing that he had eaten all six of his children. As Zeus would grow into a young man, he would eventually come to overthrow his father as the prophecy had foretold, and became the patriarch of this new generation of gods, freeing his siblings in the process and building the modern pantheon of what we know today in Marvel Comics as well as real Greek lore. In both iterations, however, he was worshipped as the king of the Greek gods, leading his siblings in their rule and governing the region of ancient Greece. Here, he had numerous affairs with dozens of mortal women, with varying degrees of different consequences, leading to the births of being known as Sarper Diem to Dionysus to Hercules. Hercules, who as a brief side note is actually referred to as Hercules in the original Greek text, and Hercules was actually the Roman interpretation of his name. Where the stories differ, however, from Marvel to real life is in reference to the Eternals and Zeus's relationship with not only this group of immortal heroes, but other pantheons of gods that exist in the Marvel comics as well. But more on that in just a minute. The uncanny resemblance between the Greek gods and the Eternals led to the two calling a meeting, as their homeworlds existed on an interdimensional nexus and overlapped with one another. The Eternals then made a pact with the Greek gods, agreeing to act as their representatives on Earth while the gods tended to business on Olympus, building an arrangement where the eternal Athena would speak on behalf of Athena, daughter of Zeus and goddess of wisdom. Likewise, Zeus would stand in for Zeus himself, and so forth, until the legend eventually became so diluted that the humans couldn't tell the difference between the gods and the Eternals. The human race slowly began to consider the Eternals to not only be the voices of the gods, but the gods themselves, which is why the Eternals as we know them in the MCU have such tight ties to ancient mythologies and religions from across the world. This implies the existence of an actual Athena in the Marvel universe, if the Marvel Cinematic Universe is to follow the comic precedent, but it's possible that Athena will be revealed to be simply a close friend of the Greek gods. It might be the only iteration of Athena in order to avoid confusion for fans, even though the Athena character does exist in the Marvel comics as well as Athena. The same could be said for Phastos and his Greek counterpart Hephaestus, or Ickarus and his namesake in Greek mythology, and so on and so forth. In the comic comics, however, this evolved into a conflict and eventual war between the gods and the Eternals, which would be a fascinating corner of lore to include in the MCU that would bridge the further connections between the Greeks and the Eternals that the MCU could exploit down the line. Not only do the Greek gods and Zeus in particular have ties to the Eternals, but Zeus has also worked extensively with Odin and other groups of different gods. While this relationship began with conflict between the two pantheons, ignited by a rivalry between Thor and Hercules, it eventually evolved into a partnership. After learning to put aside their differences and get along, they became the primary defense force that guarded the Earth from the Celestials, who also got to meet in person in the Eternals film. Zeus has been compared to the likes of Odin and Galactus in terms of power scaling, and has been respected by even Thanos, who at the time held the completed Infinity Gauntlet. Zeus's Olympian physiology granted him incredible strength, stamina, speed, and dexterity among other physically augmented attributes. This makes him among the most durable physical combatants in the Marvel comics, and in the Thor trailer, we get a glimpse at what appears to be the pocket dimension of Olympus. While it's uncertain how much the MCU might change this interpretation of Olympus and the Greek pantheon, the iteration of Zeus that exists in both the comics and in real-life Greek mythology has given Marvel and Taika Waititi a deep well of content from which to draw inspiration for the story. It's clear that Zeus is incredibly powerful and will be playing a major role in Thor: Love and Thunder. Some questions about Zeus that I'm most interested in is where was he during the snap, and why haven't we heard or seen of him or Olympus until now? Also, I'm curious to see what Gore the God Butcher's impact will be on Zeus and Olympus overall, as of course he is a god killer, as well as exactly how close Zeus from the MCU's power matches up to that of Odin and now Thor. But anyway, watchers, what do you think of Zeus as a character, and what would you like to see from him in the future of the MCU and beyond? In what aspects of Zeus's comic book tenure and his mythological history would you like to see Taika Waititi and the team over at Marvel Studios take inspiration from? And how do you think Zeus and Olympus will play into the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching the channel. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and I hope you have a great day.